The moment didn't explode. It sliced. 3 words, caught mid-stride on the loudest carpet in entertainment, landed like a slap heard across the internet. I don't know you. Not shouted, not whispered. Just flat, cold, final. And suddenly, the 2026 Grammy Awards red carpet wasn't about music anymore. It was about power. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Picture it, flashbulbs firing like strobe lights. Stylists tugging at sleeves, publicists murmuring countdowns under their breath. The red carpet moving like a conveyor belt of perfectly rehearsed smiles. Everyone knows their mark. Everyone knows their role. Until someone doesn't play along. According to multiple eyewitness accounts, this was the moment when Meghan Markle stepped into a situation she may not have expected to go sideways. A request, a pause, a response that no one rehearsed for. And just like that, the entire mood shifted. Ask yourself this: how often do you hear the word no on a red carpet? Almost never. Because red carpets aren't just about photos. They're about validation, access, hierarchy, who belongs where, who gets acknowledged, and who doesn't. That's why this moment hit so hard. By the time cameras caught the exchange, it was already too late. The narrative was forming in real time. Clips began circulating within minutes. Comment sections lit up with disbelief. Some viewers thought it was a joke. Others sensed something darker beneath the surface. Was it a misunderstanding? Or was it a public rejection no one was supposed to witness? Here's where things get interesting. People close to the event say the atmosphere changed instantly. Smiles tightened. Handlers rushed in. A ripple of discomfort moved down the carpet like a silent alarm. Something had gone off script. And in Hollywood, going off script is the one unforgivable sin. What makes this story matter isn't just who was involved. It's what the moment symbolized. Because when you strip away the gowns and glamour, this was about something far more uncomfortable. Status, recognition. And what happens when two celebrity worlds collide without a shared understanding of the rules? For years, Meghan Markle has been one of the most talked about figures in modern celebrity culture. Loved by some, criticized by others. Always discussed. Always debated. Her presence alone generates headlines. On the other side stood Lady Gaga, a music icon known for drawing hard boundaries, reinventing herself on her own terms, and fiercely controlling her public image. Someone who doesn't owe access to anyone. Someone who's never needed to explain herself. Two very different definitions of power. And they met under the harshest lights imaginable. What stunned insiders wasn't just the refusal, it was how quickly the situation allegedly escalated afterward. Because while the cameras captured only seconds, witnesses insist the real drama unfolded just beyond the frame. Raised voices, tense exchanges, a sudden urgency among staff who realized this wasn't just awkward, it was volatile. Social media sensed it instantly. Why did this feel so personal? Why did it look like more than a simple misunderstanding? And why within hours did the story fracture into competing versions, one side downplaying it, the other hinting at something far more explosive? This wasn't just a red carpet snub. It was a collision of reputations. And once those collide, no amount of PR spin can fully contain the fallout. Because here's the truth, Hollywood doesn't like to admit. Fame doesn't guarantee acceptance, and visibility doesn't equal power. Sometimes, the most devastating thing you can hear in a room full of cameras isn't an insult at all. It's being told you don't exist. But what happened after the flashes faded, when the carpet rolled on and the whispers grew louder backstage, would change the entire story. And no one saw it coming. The cameras were already pointed forward when it happened. That's the part no one can stop thinking about. Because according to people who were standing just feet away, this wasn't meant to be a moment at all. It was supposed to be routine, mechanical. Another quick red carpet interaction that would dissolve into the blur of flashes and forgotten small talk. Instead, it froze the entire line. Witnesses say Meghan Markle approached with confidence that suggested familiarity. Not casual, not hesitant. Purposeful. The kind of approach that assumes the answer before the question is even finished. On a red carpet, that confidence usually works. It's the currency of the space. But this time, the rhythm broke. Sources claim that when the request for a photo was made, there was a pause. Not long. Just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Long enough for handlers to stop smiling. Long enough for photographers to sense tension before they understood why. And then came the response attributed to Lady Gaga, I don't know you. 3 words. No smile to cushion them, no apology to soften the edge. Delivered plainly, as if stating a fact rather than making a statement. Ask yourself something. When was the last time you heard a celebrity say something so blunt on a carpet designed for illusions? People nearby reportedly reacted instantly. Some looked away. Others leaned in. A few photographers stopped shouting names altogether, unsure which way to swing their lenses, because something unscripted was unfolding, and unscripted moments are dangerous in Hollywood. Here's where accounts begin to diverge. One insider claims the words weren't meant to be cruel, just direct. A boundary. Another insists the tone was sharper than anyone expected, especially given the public setting. A third says the body language told the real story. Arms closed, eye contact brief, a subtle step back that communicated finality. Whatever the intention, the impact was undeniable. Meghan Markle, by multiple reports, did not expect resistance. That assumption alone says everything about how red carpets usually operate. These spaces run on mutual benefit. Exposure traded for proximity. Photos traded for relevance. It's an unspoken agreement everyone understands. Until someone opts out. And Lady Gaga has built an entire career on opting out when it suits her. Reinvention on her terms. Access granted selectively. Control maintained at all costs. To her supporters, this moment looked like consistency. To critics, it looked like calculated distance. But what about Meghan? Observers say her reaction was immediate, not explosive, not yet, but visibly shaken. A tightening of the jaw, a shift in posture, a look exchanged with her team that suggested this was not how the night was supposed to go. Think about the irony. A room full of people desperate to be seen. And the most powerful moment was someone refusing to see. Behind the scenes, whispers began spreading faster than the cameras could pivot. Publicists reportedly moved in, attempting to smooth the interaction, to reframe it, to make it disappear before it became a story. But stories like this don't disappear. They metastasize. Because here's the contradiction that keeps resurfacing. Some say the interaction lasted seconds. Others swear it felt like an eternity. And that difference matters, because seconds can be dismissed. Eternities demand explanation. Was this simply a celebrity asserting a boundary, or was it a silent power play in a space obsessed with hierarchy? Audience reactions online split almost instantly. Some applauded the refusal, calling it refreshing honesty in an industry built on fake smiles. Others questioned the optics, arguing that public rejection carries consequences no matter the justification. And then there's the question no one wants to answer directly. Why did this moment feel so personal? Because it wasn't just about a photo. It was about acknowledgement, about legitimacy, about who gets to claim space in rooms where access is everything. By the time the red carpet resumed its rhythm, the damage had already been done. The story was out there, mutating with every retelling. And those closest to the situation insist that what unfolded in front of the cameras was only the beginning. Because once the carpet ended and the doors closed, emotions didn't cool. They ignited. And what allegedly happened backstage, away from the lenses, away from the scripts, would push this story from awkward encounter into full-blown Hollywood fallout. But that part of the night stayed hidden. The real drama didn't happen under the lights. It happened after the doors closed. Because according to multiple insiders, the moment the red carpet ended, the energy backstage shifted from glamorous to combustible. The smiles vanished, the music muffled behind thick walls. And what had looked like a brief, awkward exchange suddenly became the problem everyone was scrambling to contain. Here's the shocking part. Several people working the event claimed they knew instantly this wasn't going to blow over. Not because of what was said on the carpet, but because of how fast Meghan Markle's team moved afterward. Witnesses describe a flurry of activity. Phones out. Voices lowered but urgent. Staffers scanning the room as if trying to locate someone who had already disappeared. One insider put it bluntly, this wasn't embarrassment, this was damage control. Ask yourself this, if it was just a misunderstanding, why the panic? According to backstage chatter, Meghan was visibly upset once off camera, not quietly disappointed. Upset, the kind of emotional reaction that tells you expectations had been shattered. People nearby described tension so thick it made others uncomfortable just standing there. And here's where the story fractures into competing narratives. One version claims Meghan felt publicly humiliated, that the refusal wasn't just personal, it was symbolic, a denial of legitimacy in a space where perception is everything. Another version insists she was furious, interpreting the moment as a deliberate slight rather than a neutral boundary. But then comes the contradiction. A separate source claims Lady Gaga had already made it clear to her team before the event that she would not be taking unplanned photos. No exceptions. No improvisation. No red carpet freelancing. To her camp, this wasn't about Meghan Markle at all. It was policy. So which version is true? That's where Hollywood whispers get loud. Because insiders say attempts were made to smooth things over backstage. Quiet approaches. Carefully worded messages. A hope that the situation could be reframed before it turned into a narrative. But according to multiple accounts, no reconciliation happened that night. Lady Gaga reportedly kept her distance. Her team closed ranks. No follow-up. No clarification, no explanation. Silence. And in Hollywood, silence is never neutral. Meanwhile, Meghan's presence backstage allegedly grew more tense as the night went on. Others say she stayed but withdrew. What everyone agrees on is this. The mood around her changed. You could feel it. People who were once eager suddenly became cautious. Conversations stopped mid-sentence when she passed. Not out of fear, out of uncertainty. Because no one knew how this story was going to land. And then, almost like clockwork, the leaks began. Not official statements, not quotes on the record, just whispers, texts, DMs. Did you hear what happened? Turning into, do you think it was intentional? By the next morning, the narrative had split cleanly down the middle. One side framed Lady Gaga as cold, dismissive, unnecessarily harsh. The other painted her as someone protecting her boundaries in an industry that rarely respects them. Meghan, meanwhile, was cast simultaneously as victim and aggressor, depending on who you asked. And that duality is the most dangerous place to be, because once public opinion fractures, control slips. Think about the irony here. An awards show meant to celebrate art becomes a referendum on power. A single sentence overshadows performances, trophies, speeches, because what people remember isn't who won. It's who refused, and here's the detail that keeps resurfacing among insiders. The intensity of Meghan's reaction reportedly surprised people who thought she'd seen worse. Which raises a troubling question. Why did this moment hit such a nerve? Was it about that photo? Or about what the refusal represented? Because in Hollywood, access equals acceptance, and rejection, especially in public, doesn't just bruise egos. It redraws invisible lines, lines that decide who gets invited back, who gets the benefit of the doubt, who becomes the story instead of controlling it. By the time social media woke up to the clip, the damage was irreversible. The moment had escaped the room. And once that happens, no amount of backstage negotiation can put it back. What no one expected was how fast the public would choose sides. And when they did, the story didn't just trend. It detonated. By morning, the clip was everywhere. Not on the official Grammy highlights. Not in the polished recaps. But on phones. Group chats. Comment sections moving faster than any PR team could chase. A few seconds of footage, looped endlessly, dissected frame by frame like evidence in a trial. And here's the part that stunned Hollywood. No one rushed to explain it. No clarifying statement. No friendly misunderstanding leak. No joint photo released later to quiet the noise. Just silence. Ask yourself this. In an industry addicted to narrative control, when does silence become the loudest message of all? For Meghan Markle, that silence was brutal, because when you don't define the story, the audience does it for you. Overnight, the moment stopped being about a red carpet interaction and became something much bigger. A referendum on relevance, on access, on whether proximity to fame still guarantees belonging. Commentators split instantly. Some argued she had every right to expect basic courtesy in a public space. Others countered that expectation itself was the problem, that assuming access is the quickest way to lose it. And then came the irony no one could ignore. The woman often accused of craving attention became the center of attention she could not control. Meanwhile, Lady Gaga's silence worked differently. To her supporters, it looked like strength, boundary setting, a refusal to participate in manufactured drama. To critics, it felt dismissive, even arrogant. But either way, her absence from the conversation became a statement in itself. Because here's the uncomfortable truth Hollywood rarely admits. You don't have to explain yourself if you don't need approval. And approval is the real currency here. This is where the story circles back to that first shocking line. I don't know you. On the surface, it sounds simple, almost factual. But in context, it carried a deeper sting. It wasn't about familiarity. It was about recognition, or the lack of it. Think about what that means in a room built entirely on being known, being recognized, being acknowledged as someone who belongs. When that recognition is withheld, especially publicly, it creates a rupture that no amount of fame can fully patch. And that's why this moment lingered, because it exposed something raw beneath the glamour, the fragility of status, the reality that influence is situational, that doors don't stay open just because they once were. For Meghan, the aftermath reportedly forced a recalibration. Fewer appearances, tighter circles. More control, less risk. Because once you've been publicly denied, every future move carries that memory. For Lady Gaga, the moment faded quickly, as moments often do when you refuse to feed them. No commentary, no justification, just forward motion. And that contrast says everything. So here's the question that sticks long after the clip stops looping. Who really held the power in that moment? The one who asked to be seen? Or the one who didn't need to look? Because in celebrity culture, rejection isn't just personal, it's symbolic. It tells everyone watching where the invisible lines are drawn. And once those lines become visible, they're impossible to ignore. If there's a takeaway here, it's not about who is right or wrong. It's about what happens when assumptions collide with boundaries. When expectation meets refusal. When silence replaces spin. And maybe that's why this moment refuses to die. Because in a world obsessed with being acknowledged, the most devastating thing you can hear isn't an insult. It's indifference. So now I want to hear from you. Was this a justified boundary or an unnecessary public shutdown? Was this about ego or about control? And if the cameras hadn't been rolling, would the outcome have been any different? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay here, because moments like this don't just reveal celebrities, they reveal the rules. And once you see the rules, you can never unsee them.